Imagine growing up with one parent barely present in your life, while the other clings to you so tightly that it feels like you can never breathe. You're constantly caught between feeling like you're not important enough to be loved and feeling like you're carrying the weight of someone else's expectations. If this sounds like your childhood or someone you know, you're not alone. This emotional tug-of-war between an absent father and an overprotective mother can leave deep psychological scars that can affect how you view yourself, how you connect. In this video, we'll explore how this complex family dynamic shapes the way children grow up, how it can lead to deep emotional confusion, and how these childhood experiences might still be influencing you today. Stay tuned as we break down the psychology behind it all and discuss how it impacts relationships, self-esteem, and even how we see ourselves. The fractured attachment, growing up between two worlds. To understand the psychological impact of an absent father and an overprotective mother, we need to first look at the concept of attachment. Attachment theory, pioneered by John Bowlby, shows how early emotional bonds with caregivers shape how children view relationships in later life. Healthy attachment leads to a strong sense of security, trust, and emotional resilience. But when those attachments are fractured, something much deeper happens. In the case of an absent father, the child often experiences a deep sense of emotional neglect. A father's absence can be physical or emotional, but either way, it sends a clear message. You are not important enough for me to stay. This feeling of rejection creates a core wound in the child's emotional world, one that can manifest in adulthood as feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness. The absence leaves a gap in the child's sense of self, and that gap can be filled with a variety of emotional wounds, such as feelings of abandonment, loneliness, and sometimes even anger toward both the father and the self. On the flip side, an overprotective mother, while likely acting out of love, can unintentionally reinforce the child's sense of inadequacy by smothering them. Overprotective mothers tend to hover over their children, controlling their environment and often making the child feel like they are the center of their world, but in a way that creates pressure. You are everything to me, the mother says, but the unspoken message is, you must live up to my expectations or I will fall apart. This creates an emotional burden that the child may not fully comprehend but feels deeply. So, the child receives two conflicting messages. You're not worthy of love, from the absent father, and you are everything to me, from the mother, but with the burden of being perfect. This creates what psychologists call a fractured attachment, a bond that is broken, inconsistent, and filled with mixed signals. The child learns to navigate a confusing emotional landscape, where they feel both invisible and overly scrutinized, both unworthy and too important. This dynamic isn't just confusing in childhood, it sticks with them through adolescence and adulthood, affecting their sense of identity and self-worth. What we have here is a psychological paradox. The child is torn between the message that they are unimportant and the message that they are too important. These opposing beliefs create deep inner turmoil, where the child feels both unseen and overly exposed, leading to a fragile and unstable sense of self. The narcissistic defense mechanism, protecting the fragile self. As the child grows into adolescence and eventually adulthood, the effects of this fractured attachment continue to play out in profound ways. One of the most common outcomes of this emotional confusion is the development of narcissistic tendencies. But these narcissistic traits don't emerge from a place of vanity or self-centeredness. Instead, they are a defense mechanism, a way for the individual to cope with the deep insecurity and emotional turmoil they carry from childhood. Narcissism, in this context, can be understood as a protective shield. The person may become extremely focused on gaining external validation, seeking constant praise, admiration, and attention from others to compensate for the lack of internal validation they received as a child. When a child grows up with an absent father, they may feel unloved, unnoticed, or unworthy. In an attempt to fill this emotional void, they may begin to act out in ways that demand attention. They may strive to be the center of attention, whether through their appearance, their accomplishments, or their persona. This external validation becomes a way for them to prove to themselves and to others that they matter, that they are worth something. However, this outward display of confidence and entitlement often hides a deeper insecurity. Beneath the surface, these individuals are usually terrified of being found out. The fear is that, despite all the attention and admiration they seek, they will be exposed as frauds, as someone unworthy of love or affection. This fear stems directly from the emotional abandonment they experienced from their father. As children, they were taught that they weren't important enough to be loved or cared for, and as adults, this belief continues to haunt them, even as they put on a facade of self-assurance. The overprotective mother, too, plays a role in this narcissistic defense mechanism. Her excessive care and emotional dependence on the child may lead the child to internalize the idea that their worth is tied to how much they can give to others. They may become fixated on being needed because their sense of self is fragile and reliant on others' approval. Their worth is no longer something intrinsic. It is something to be earned by pleasing others, by being perfect, or by constantly proving themselves. They may feel like they have to keep up appearances, to be the perfect partner, the perfect friend, the perfect professional, because if they stop, they fear they'll lose the attention and admiration that keeps their fragile sense of self intact. Over time, this narcissistic need for validation can erode a person's ability to form healthy, fulfilling relationships. They might push people away because they are afraid of being vulnerable. They keep others at arm's length, fearing that any intimacy will expose their deep insecurities. At the same time, they may crave attention and adoration, yet feel emotionally distant from the very people they rely on for affirmation. This push and pull creates a cycle of self-destructive behavior and relationship struggles, as they never truly allow themselves to be loved or accepted for who they are, only for the version of themselves they present to the world. One of the most difficult aspects of this is that these individuals often don't even realize that they are driven by insecurity. To them, the need for validation feels like a natural part of life. It's not until they experience profound emotional pain or crisis, such as a breakup, a failure, or a deep personal loss, that they begin to question why they feel so hollow, despite all the attention and success. It's in these moments that they are forced to confront the brokenness they've carried with them all along, the pain of feeling invisible as a child, and the overwhelming pressure of being everything to their mother. Healing the wounds of the past, finding balance, and rediscovering self-worth. The journey from emotional confusion and narcissistic defense mechanisms to healing is neither quick nor easy. It's a process that requires deep self-awareness, vulnerability, and the willingness to confront painful truths about one's past. But it is possible to heal these wounds and to rediscover a sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on the validation of others. Let's look at how healing can unfold and what steps can be taken to break free from the cycle of fractured attachment. Step 1. Acknowledging the past. The first step in healing is acknowledging that these patterns exist. It's essential to recognize that the dynamics of an absent father and an overprotective mother have created a fractured attachment in your life. This acknowledgement doesn't mean blaming your parents or dwelling on the past, but rather understanding the emotional foundation from which you've built your sense of self. By accepting that these experiences have shaped you, you can start to separate who you truly are from the emotional wounds you've carried. It's important to give yourself permission to feel the emotions that come with this realization, whether it's sadness, anger, or even relief. For many, this step can be an emotional breakthrough, as it allows them to see that their feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, or emotional turmoil were not their fault. These were the natural consequences of growing up in an environment where love and care were inconsistent, or where they were forced to carry an emotional load far beyond their years. Step 2. Rebuilding a healthy sense of self-worth. One of the most important aspects of healing is rebuilding a healthy sense of self-worth. This means learning to validate yourself rather than seeking external approval. It's about recognizing that your value is intrinsic, not dependent on how much you can give or how much others admire you. This shift takes time, but it starts with self-compassion. It's about treating yourself with the kindness and understanding that you might not have received in childhood. For individuals with fractured attachment, self-worth is often built on external achievements or the approval of others. It can feel like a constant chase for validation. To heal, it's crucial to learn how to be your own source of affirmation. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or self-absorbed, but rather, it's about fostering a deep sense of inner peace and self-acceptance. It's the ability to acknowledge your flaws without letting them define you, and to recognize your strengths without needing others to confirm them. Self-worth can be nurtured by starting small, celebrating little victories, acknowledging progress, and learning to be kind to yourself when things don't go as planned. It's also helpful to engage in activities that promote self-love, such as journaling, practicing mindfulness, or seeking therapy to explore these wounds with a professional. Therapy, in particular, can help unpack childhood traumas and reframe the negative beliefs that were formed about oneself. Step 3. Rewriting the narrative of relationships. Another key part of healing is learning to navigate relationships in a healthier, more balanced way. People who grow up with fractured attachment often struggle with intimacy, constantly fearing rejection or criticism. They may push people away because they're afraid of being vulnerable, or they might cling to others out of a desperate need for validation. To break this pattern, it's essential to start rewriting the narrative around relationships. This begins by recognizing that relationships do not need to be perfect to be meaningful, and that love and affection do not have to be earned through perfection or constant giving. Healthy relationships are based on mutual respect, trust, and the freedom to be imperfect. For those who have experienced emotional neglect or overprotection in childhood, it's important to work on creating boundaries in relationships. This might mean learning to say no without feeling guilty or identifying when someone is overstepping emotional boundaries. It also involves letting go of the idea that you need to please others or be everything to someone in order to be loved. True love, whether in a romantic relationship or a friendship, thrives in an environment of mutual respect and understanding. Step 4. Embracing vulnerability. The fear of vulnerability is one of the biggest obstacles to healing. Many people who have suffered from fractured attachment are terrified of letting others see their true selves. They hide behind a mask of confidence, strength, or even arrogance, hoping no one will see their emotional fragility. But true healing comes when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, when we open up to others and allow them to see the parts of ourselves that we've hidden away for so long. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It takes courage to open up about your emotions, to admit that you've been hurt, and to share your fears and doubts with others. But it's through vulnerability that deep, authentic connections can be formed. It's only when we let our guard down that we can truly experience the love and acceptance we've been searching for all along. Therapy can play a significant role in this process, helping individuals safely navigate their emotional world and learn how to express their feelings in healthy, productive ways. Support groups or close friendships can also provide a safe space for vulnerability, where individuals can share their experiences and receive the empathy and understanding they need to heal. The road to healing, moving forward with compassion. The journey to healing from a fractured attachment caused by an absent father and an overprotective mother is challenging, but not impossible. It requires self-awareness, a willingness to embrace vulnerability, and the courage to rewrite the narratives that have defined your self-worth for so long. The most important part of this process is understanding that you are worthy of love and belonging just as you are. You do not have to prove your value to anyone. Your value is inherent, and learning to believe in that is the key to healing. Healing from fractured attachment is a gradual process, but each step brings you closer to the person you are meant to be. A person who is not defined by their past, but empowered by the ability to choose their future. A person who can form deep, meaningful relationships without fear of rejection or abandonment. A person who knows their worth and does not need to seek it in the approval of others. And remember, while the past may shape us, it does not have to define us. With patience, self-love, and a commitment to healing, you can overcome the emotional scars of childhood and build a life that is whole, authentic, and deeply fulfilling.